Dobrý den, vítejte u dalšího videa. Dnešní video je natáčené v přírodě and the topic that I picked for today was inspired by one of my students, so thank you for that. In our lessons we came across this situation. It was how to use the pronoun this in Czech. Using this or that in English is easy because you just have these two forms, this and that. In English you use this. This is my coffee, this coffee is mine. What you have to worry about in English is my versus mine, but that's not the point here. I want to talk about how to use this. So let's think how to say this in Czech. In the nominative case, that's enough. Tohle, tahle, tenhle. 3 forms. Now say, this is my coffee. Tohle je moje káva. And now, this coffee is mine. Tahle káva je moje. Tahle káva je moje. So we have tohle je moje káva versus tahle káva je moje. Why? When you say this is my coffee, tohle je moje káva, tohle is used as a demonstrative pronoun referring to something neuter. We say this thing is my coffee, which would be neuter in Czech. Tohle je moje káva. Tohle, this thing that I'm pointing at. Whereas when you say this coffee is mine, you would say tahle káva je moje, because you are putting together the demonstrative pronoun and the word coffee, káva, which is feminine, ta káva. So you would say tahle káva for this coffee. Tahle káva je moje. In English you worry about my versus mine. In Czech you have to figure out how to translate this. So this referring to the object, which in this case is coffee. And tahle káva, this has to be in a grammatical agreement. So we would say tahle káva, this coffee. Ahoj, vítejte na mém kanále Czech by Zuzka, kde vám pomocí angličtiny vysvětluju českou gramatiku. So that was an example with something feminine, káva. What about dopis? Dopis is a letter and it's ten dopis. That's masculine. If you want to say this is your letter, you would say this thing is your letter. You're saying tohle je tvůj dopis. Tohle je tvůj dopis. This is your letter. This object is your letter. But if you want to say this letter is yours, you would say tenhle dopis. Tenhle dopis, both masculine. Tenhle dopis je tvůj. Tenhle dopis je tvůj. Tohle je tvůj dopis. And the same thing would be with the pronoun that. In Czech, that can be translated as ten, ta, nebo to. Again, ten, ta, to, depending on the gender. So imagine someone is taking away your cake. So you say, hey, that was my cake. You would say, hele, to byl můj dort. To byl můj dort. To, that thing that I'm pointing at, was my cake. To byl můj dort. But if you said, hey, that cake was mine, you would say, hele, ten dort byl můj. Ten dort byl můj. To byl můj dort. Ten dort byl můj. Because ten dort has to be together, there has to be accordance. Ten, masculine, dort, masculine. Imagine you want to say that house is ours. You would say ten dům je náš. Ten dům je náš. Ten dům. But if you want to say that is our house, that thing, that object, you would say to je náš dům. To je náš dům. Ten dům je náš. To je náš dům. When you make questions, it works the same way. For example, if you ask, is that your pizza? You would say, je to tvoje pizza? Nebo to je tvoje pizza. Here it doesn't matter, but you still have to stick with to, because you don't put to and pizza together. You separate it. Once you separate it, you're pointing at something and you're saying that object. Is that thing your pizza? To je tvoje pizza? Or you could say, is that pizza yours? Ta pizza je tvoje? Or you could say, je ta pizza tvoje? Again, the word order would not affect this as long as you have ta pizza together. Or if you separate it, you would say, to je tvoje pizza. Now, what happens if we talk about an object that's actually neuter? then you don't have to worry about which one you choose because it will both be neuter. For example, pití. Pití is a drink. Is that your drink? To je tvoje pití. Is that drink yours? To pití je tvoje. Or je to pití tvoje? To je tvoje pití. Je to pití tvoje. Here both are neuter because pití, to pití. Pití is neuter. It would actually be the same situation if you refer to something in plural, like tyhle or tohle. Are these shoes new? Tyhle boty jsou nové? Nebo jsou tyhle boty nové? Or are these new shoes? To jsou nové boty? To jsou nové boty? Because you separate it. Tyhle boty jsou nové? To jsou nové boty? A to je všechno, co jsem vám chtěla říct. This is all I wanted to tell you. You have to keep in mind that to can refer to something neuter, or also when you point at something and you don't have any specific gender in mind at that moment because you're saying that thing or this thing. But once you put it next to a specific thing, it doesn't have to be only an object. It can be any noun. It can be something abstract like an idea, nápad. Then you have to have an accordance of the gender when they are together. Ten dům, ta káva, to pití. Jdeme na překlad. Let's translate now. We're going to practice with this short exercise where you have 5 sentences in English and your task will be to translate them into Czech. Pause the video while you work on this. Jdeme to zkontrolovat. Číslo 1. That was my idea. To byl můj nápad. To byl můj nápad. That idea was mine. That idea. Ten nápad byl můj. Ten nápad byl můj. Is this TV yours? We have more options here. Let's first assume you are asking more people, so you would use vaše, vaše televize. Tahle televize je vaše, or you could move it around. Je tahle televize vaše? Tahle televize. Or with tvoje, you could say, je tahle televize tvoje? Or tahle televize je tvoje? Další. That is a good plan. To je dobrý plán. To je dobrý plán. A poslední číslo 5. This soup is yours. Tahle polévka je vaše, nebo tahle polévka je tvoje. But we have to say tahle polévka. A toť vše. Let me know how you did and if you have any other questions. I hope you enjoyed this seemingly easy topic. Uvidíme se zase za týden. Mějte se hezky. Ahoj!